Hi, welcome you all to the second episode of Alumni Connect for Desire Foundation. So basically, we have gathered here today with a few of our alumni members to talk about some of the very important questions that each and every one of us face in our careers. And that is when and at what time of our career should we go for higher studies? What is the correct subject that we should choose? And which country to target. So we have our very esteemed alumni members with us, and we want to discuss about it today. But before that, for introduction, my name is Pritha. I am a 2016 pass out of KIIT. I was also one of the founding members of Desire along with Shomik and Shayan. And it is a very, very big privilege for me to be here, moderating this podcast. And I'm really glad to be able to talk to my alumni members and my friends and, juniors today. So here I want to welcome Sambit Saurav. He is a 2016 pass out from KIIT. And he had secured a campus placement in Ericsson. After 2 years of job, he decided to pursue masters in business analytics from University of Dallas, Texas. And currently he is working with Blue Cross Blue Shield. So we're really lucky to have you. As a matter of fact, both Sambit and me, we are from the same batch, and we happen to share close enough roll numbers. So we had the same kind of sitting arrangement during exams. And even though he'll not agree to this right now, but I think I can take a few of the credit for engineering. So
You could
yes,
actually
Sambit,
take
do you?
all of it.
Yeah, so Sambit, I'll let you say something about yourself.
Hi, everyone. So like Preetha mentioned, I'm doing my master's in business analytics. So second to my major is data science. Right now, I work as a data scientist at Blue Cross Blue Shield. To be precise, my role is clinical data scientist. And yeah, so far so good. I have been working with them since January of this year, and it's a great role to be. And precisely with your questions, I would start answering why did I take this role, or why did I take this field. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
all about me.
absolutely. Absolutely, Sambit. We'll get to that. So next we have Rachna Singh with us. She's a 2017 pass out and also a very dear member of Desire Foundation. So she is currently pursuing her master's in sustainable resource management from Technical University of Munich, which is a dream for everybody. So yeah, I want to let's hear from Rachna. How did she get there, and what's her story?
Hello everyone, I'm Rachna and I did my bachelor's from Kit University and passed out from 2019 batch. And after doing 18 months in Cognizant, working there, I was not so happy with the IT thing, and always like I had something for doing something for environment. So I wanted to pursue my career in sustainability field. I applied in Germany as Europe is a hub for all these things. So I got admission in Technical University of Munich, which is a dream, of course, for everyone. So luckily, I got it, and now it's my third semester, and my specialization is in uh, renewable energy and climate air water. And currently, I'm a working student in Amazon, and I'm very glad to meet you all. I'm very happy to answer all your questions.
That's wonderful, Rachna. I mean, I feel so proud when you spoke about all the things that you are doing currently and all the things that you are going to do in the future for our society and for the world. So,
Thank you so much.
Sambit, I do want to start with you. So, how and when did you decide कि अभी हमें masters करना चाहिए, or like how did you understand कि अच्छा मुझे ये subject में masters करना चाहिए?
That's a good question. So what happened was like when I was working as a network data analyst at Ericsson, mostly I has to deal with like like technical data that I could never understand. So it's more like so the data that you have to deal with, you all you have to do is like a consistent flow that everybody has decided from the like from the beginning, and you just have to do it. That's it. So there's no so I wanted to get into depth of like what this data represents, like what it is all about. And then suddenly someday somebody referred to me saying, there's like a field in masters you can do, it's related to data only, and if you're at all interested about to like learn about the data. So yeah, that's what pushed me. I was like, okay, wait, so there's something to do in masters, and that's an opportunity to go to US as well, so let's do it. And yeah, that's what pushed me actually.
So, so basically, your initial years in the industry actually helped you take the decision of where you want to build your career and in which direction you want to move forward. Correct?
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
So you did mention about like that was a good opportunity to go to US. So did you always know that you wanted to go to US, and like you had the big dream to go to US and settle down there, maybe in some
uh
you have that always in your mind?
Yeah, so I kind of like the vibe that goes around over here, the work culture, the way you gain the experience. So that's a small point I would like to add is like the difference between what we used to work in India and the way I
Mm-hmm.
used to work right now, right? I work over here right now, is the experience that I gain. It's not just a simple workflow that you're working on daily, regular basis. It's actually something new you're learning every single day. So it's an environment that they have created, or you can say it's not a large, huge team that I work for. It's a team of only
Mm-hmm.
7 people, and everyday interaction on the same topic gets you to new ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so it's not like a cubicle job, like you sit in your cubicle and do what you're given to do, the same task every day. So it's like
Understood.
there's an
Understood.
interaction. Yeah. So in 8 hours of my job, um, I usually work like 6 or 7 hours. I'm like probably 5 or 6 hours. The rest 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, we spend it like for interaction, like for something out of the work, so that we can think different than what is actually happening. That is what
So
I like
basically,
about.
newer
So
challenges that you face every day at work is what keeps you going, and that is the kind
yes,
of work difference, work style difference that you really like in the US. Correct?
yes, yes.
Yeah, that's really nice. So Rachna, getting into TUM, as we already mentioned, is every person's dream. So did you always know that you wanted to get there? And so since you are in Germany, I definitely have to ask you this question: how much does the language of that country matter when you want to pursue masters there? And how did you go about it?
It matters a lot. Uh, it's a suggestion. If you are coming to Europe, it's better to learn their language. Most people here are not flexible in speaking English, especially the older generation. Newer generation can speak, but they are also not comfortable in that. So you have to adapt their culture. They're very strict about their culture, especially the Bavaria where I live. They are very particular about the speaking of German. So it's better to learn, and it helps you to understand their discipline, their way of discipline, their lifestyles, and everything. If you learn it, and they will consider you as a part of their country. If you
Correct.
start speaking in English, then like they will like be a bit ignorant about it.
So basically, if you know the societal norms, it is better and easier to gel in, and you
Yeah.
have that sense of belonging.
Yes,
Correct.
yes, it's very useful.
So how long did you take to grasp a new language, and now I believe that you are pursuing your course in that language, correct?
No, no, it's an English
Okay.
course only. It's an international course, so it's in
Oh, okay.
English. So I don't have any requirements to learn, but if I want to work in Europe, especially in the sustainability field in Bavaria, I need to know
Mhm.
the language, and I'm still learning it.
Okay. That's wonderful. Yeah, because even from my experience from the time when I spent on an on-site role in Germany, I can definitely say that like people did mention this very often, that if you want to grow higher up in your career, and if you want to be in a managerial role, it's very important that you know the language, because that is how you will interact with people.
Yes, it's very important. And here, lots of people know like 3 to 4 languages. So it's not difficult, just you need to practice. That's it.
Correct, correct. So Rachna, how did you go about your application process? How did you plan, and when did you start?
Uh, I started, actually, I was not prepared to go to doing anything abroad. I was
Hmm.
preparing for CAT. I was started preparing and like, let's give a chance to give GRE and IELTS or TOEFL. I was just, okay, let's take a chance. So I applied for it, then I started searching. And then there's a site called
Okay.
DAAD. So all the information about the German university is given in that site. So I was
Hmm.
like, okay, I'm interested in renewables. So I started searching there. And the most important thing in Germany is that they're free education. You don't pay for your course. Only just you have to pay the semester fees. So I'm not pay, I just my fees is in Indian rupees, it's only 10,000. So it's cheap also. And you can fulfill your
10,000
dream.
euros, correct?
No, in Indian rupees. My fee in euros,
Oh, okay.
it's only like 142, and in Indian rupees, it's only 10,000.
That's really cheap. That's really affordable for all Indian students.
Yeah,
So
all
like,
the people. So if you want to pursue your career in Europe, then it's very good option in Germany, especially. But just there's one condition: need to know the language. And
correct, absolutely.
after like they are very particular after like searching for it, I have to fulfill their criteria whatever they mention in that they
Hmm.
are these are their requirements or these are the number of CTS you need to have in your bachelor's. They are very particular about it, and if you don't do it, then like if you don't have that, and your application will be rejected even though you have a strong background or this that. They don't care.
Hmm.
They need their requirements to meet properly.
Understood.
So
So,
yeah.
so for you, how much did CGPA, your college bachelor CGPA, play a role in securing uh, your position in the esteemed university?
Yeah, there was a criteria in you that your German grades need to be above 2.5. It's like the highest is from 1 and lowest from 4. So they wanted people to have their requirements like above 2.5. So my German grade was 2.1. So I fulfilled that criteria.
Okay. So when you are converting CGPA into the German grade system, do you know the conversion ratio?
There's one like for applying for TUM, especially you have to give your application to Uni Assist. They will convert your grades, and you will get a letter from them, and then that letter is also a mandatory document for applying in TUM and several universities in Germany.
Yeah, I think these information are very, very crucial for everybody who would want to apply to any universities abroad, and especially if they are targeting Germany. So,
Yes, and
yeah,
I was just about to tell you. I remember that link. Sorry, the website, it is MS in Germany. They have all the things, all the procedures, what you have to do from applying for your applications, for your CVs,
mhm,
for cover letter. Everything is there mentioned in that, from travel insurance, health insurance, block account, everything. So if you
perfect.
want
So,
to really pursue that, look into that site, MS in Germany.
perfect. So MS in Germany is the site that we should look forward to, or look into rather, if you are planning to apply for colleges in Germany. So Sambit, since you had targeted colleges in US, I am sure that your application process was a little different from what we hear from Rachna. So how did you go about it, and how did you select the college and the course that you wanted to be in?
Okay, so the very first step that I took was like giving my GRE exams. You need
Hmm.
to have your scores with you before you can decide to which university and what kind of course you're into. Because it's like a benchmark. Like you need to set it like, yeah, this is my score, and with this score, I can clear the cutoff of like these universities. So you need to have that first. So that's what I did. I gave my GRE and I had a good score. So I was like, okay, so I now have to decide like which universities I want to pursue and what kind of subjects I want to. So with the pushing that I got from my teammates in Ericsson, so they were I already decided like the courses that I'll be taking would be like MS in ITM, that's information technology management, or business analytics, or MIS. So only thing I had to decide was basically like, what kind of university I want to join in. And
Mm-hmm.
so for that, the best website to watch is like usnews.com. You can go to the website, you can find the university, see their course structure, and
Mm-hmm.
so it helps you like design a framework for yourself. Like, yeah, this is the course I want to, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with. So good thing about being in US is they don't check your background scores, like background GPS or anything. All they
Okay.
want is like have a good SOP. Like you should be able to explain yourself. That's it.
Correct.
So yeah, so like for example, when you're applying for your universities, you'll have to prepare something
Mm-hmm.
called an SOP.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the most important thing. So with a good SOP, even if you have a bad GRE score, you can actually get into top 10 universities.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
that's a very important highlight, I believe. So basically, what you mean is once you know that the type of course you want to pursue further, it is very important that you create a SOP that shows your correct intent for pursuing that
exactly.
subject, that stream of study, and also trying to prove or give them pointers as to why you are the right fit for that role and for that specific. You have to show your correct interest. Correct.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, there's like huge difference that makes it like the SOP makes a huge
Mhm.
difference. Like I got into
Correct.
UTD, my friends were there who got into Duke. That's a huge jump in university. So
Mhm, mhm,
that is one thing. And once you're done with your university's applications and all, like let's say you decide to take a BA subject and
mhm,
you put in applications with 10 or 11 universities, this is one important thing that people over here also suggest you to do. That is writing it down to your professors saying, hi, I am interested in this article that you have written and I want to be a part of that. Like help you with the research, or I can do this. I have worked on this. I can do this, and I can help you in this way. That is one approach I have seen a lot of people take over here, and that really helps. Like even if you have not a good score in GRE or something, if you
mhm.
have a professor recommendation, I mean that's like click to your universities. You don't have to do a lot of things. Like you're
Yeah.
just in.
So building a rapport with the professors from beforehand might help you secure
Yes,
a good course in the university you're targeting.
yes, yes.
Correct. So now both of you have left your countries and you are miles and miles away in a different country with different culture, different food habits, different kind of people, and so how has life been away from home? How did you gel in? How did you settle? Any challenges that you faced, and what are the different societal norms that you had to adjust to, or what is the weirdest thing that you faced after you went there? So just popcorn style. Either of you can just take this question.
Rachna, you can take
I
it.
would like to mention in that. For India, we have like almost all the shops and everything was open on 24 into 7. Not in 24 into 7, but most of them were open on Sundays, and we are not habituated to, like, not habituated to go on weekdays and go do shoppings and everything on weekends. But here, Sunday wins Sunday. No shop will be open, nothing will be open. So you have to plan your day. Everything you need for every single thing you need to plan. That
Yeah,
was like
and
little bit I need to adjust with this, but finally I did.
That's actually relatable because I mean when I used to step out of office at 6 in the evening, everything was closed in the small town I was working out of, Wolfsburg, and it was pretty much a culture shock for me. What is this? At 6 o'clock, people have gone back home and they are already set to get to bed. Yeah. So, Sambit, do you have similar experiences?
yeah, the very first time when I landed into US, I was like, wait, what do I do next? Like, I mean, so so I Ubered my to my place. Like I had already decided on where I'm staying and all. So I
Hmm.
took an Uber from airport to my place, and after that, so in Texas, I mean in Dallas over here, everything is like way far. So I was like, I need something to start my day off, like at least make something for breakfast or something. And I was like, how do I get eggs or like is there like a store or something where you can get the eggs? They were like, no, you can get those in Walmart. You have to go to Walmart. And then suddenly I saw it in the map, and as Walmart is like 3.2 miles away. I was like 3.2 miles. Oh my God. So that's not something you can walk or like do some like you take an Uber or like so Uber over here is like way pricey. So
Okay.
it's like yeah. So so that's what happened with me. And then the food habits over here, they like it like uncooked. So if you cook it like the way we Indians cook it, they'll be like, "What? It's like fully cooked," but they like it. I mean, they'll be like, it should be like semi-cooked. So I had to like adjust to a lot of things. Like if you want to get like chicken or something, you have to find an Indian store, and it's literally the place I stay here. It's like 10 miles away for one single Indian store, and there's nothing else apart from that. So everything I have to find it from a Walmart or like uh, a big store. There's no like small shops where you can go and you can find your daily requirements. So it was a bit tough for
So it was pretty much of a culture shock for you as well. That is what I learned from from your experience. So I want to ask you this question. You know, you just mentioned about the Uber prices there, and which I think is a known fact everywhere. So how important is it to do a part-time job if you are pursuing higher studies there in the US? And how did you manage your finances and like the course fee and everything? Did you have to take a loan, or like how did you go about it?
So when I got this opportunity at UTD, I applied for a scholarship,
Hmm.
and I got the scholarship as well. So a scholarship in US means like you have to pay the in-state tuition fee rather than the out-state. So that's like you can say not exactly like 50%, but it will be like 45, 46%.
I'm sorry to interrupt you here, but could you tell us what in-state and out-state would be like for our viewers?
Okay, so in-state is when somebody uh, is staying over here in US, like as a citizen or something, and he
Hmm.
gets into the university. So that's when the person pays is like a in-state tuition fees. And if a person is like coming from like an international student, what they have to pay is called out-state tuition fees. So when you get a scholarship over here, it usually means that you have to pay the in-state. So there are two or three different types of scholarship. You can get a fixed amount. Let's say they'll give you like $10,000 for your whole course, and that's called a that's so I don't remember the names exactly, but that is one type of scholarship. The other one is like where you get the in-state tuition fees. That is like from your overall fees, it will be straight 45% off, like that. So I got that.
Understood.
Yeah, I got that, and I was like, okay, so not bad for me. Like my whole MS plan in my mind that I had, like this will be the amount that I'll be spending and all. So got like way reduced to what I wanted to. And when you work a part-time job over here, it's part-time is like way must over here. It's like a must. I mean,
Hmm.
do something to find a part-time. Like fight.
Okay.
Like good thing to do over here is like connect with people. Like connect with as many people as you can during your like first year. So one rule to follow over here is like you cannot do a part-time until unless you have completed 1 year of your course.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and after that only you can do a part-time. And so that is basically the period they're giving you to connect with people to find a part-time. So during my part-time, I didn't have a part-time. So all I basically I did is like I tried to approach for a part-time. By the time I was approaching for a part-time, I got my internship. So
Okay.
they
So
pay
that really
you.
worked in your favor.
Yeah, they pay you well, so you don't have to worry about your like tuition fees or anything. You can pay it off during your internships only. So you don't have to have any loans or anything. If you have any loans, you can pay it off during your internship. By the time you
Hmm.
start off your full time, so you can definitely like pay it off within like next couple of months. That's it. But
Understood. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's a mandatory thing to have a part time. Like it's
understood. So part-time job was really important if you want to sustain yourself well in the US, and along with that, if you have a scholarship, that is a really, really good advantage.
yeah. So the way that I mentioned before, like say
Hmm.
like approaching professors or something. that is another way you can actually have a part-time. So if you approach a professor earlier than before joining the university and you have a good rapport with the professor, he can actually
Mhm.
offer you something called graduate trainee assistantship. So
Understood.
yeah, so basically you will be assisting him in some kind of a research work or something. And for
Mhm.
that, basically if you do help them in any kind of thing, they will lower your tuition fees to in states. So you just
Understood.
need, yeah. So if you work in the dining as well, they lower your tuition fees to in-state. If you work as a professor assistant, they lower your tuition fees to in-state. If you work as a research assistant, they will do the same. If you work as an event campus life management trainee, they'll do the same. So there are a lot of opportunities to get a scholarship. You don't have to like worry about your loan or anything.
Yeah, I think that is really important to anybody who is planning to apply to gather all these information well in advance for the colleges they are trying to apply, so that they have all the information. And I'm sure after this podcast we will have a lot of questions your way and Rachna's way. So yeah, just be ready for to answer all the questions from all our interns. I know that both of you have been studying abroad, and considering the current economic situation and the market that that we see all around. So Rachna, how do you see the job market in Germany, and how well is it for foreign national students?
Uh, right now, it's bit difficult even for the German nationals also. But no, but the government is
Correct.
trying their best to provide opportunities to everyone. So it's like coming future, the job
Mhm.
scenario will change. But like right moment, it's like bit difficult, and they prefer to have someone, if someone like they have if you're applying for sustainability field and you have experience in sustainability, then they prefer that person rather than like not person who doesn't have experience in sustainability to maintain their cost balances and everything. So, but like just because of corona, and this is a
Yeah,
second wave right now here, so bit situation is not good here, but everything will be fine in future.
I'm absolutely. I'm that really really soon. So again, coming back to you, so I do want to understand what are the different types of job that you would be targeting, or you would be applying for after you complete your masters, like just out of
So yeah,
inquisitiveness.
as my specialization is renewable and climate change, climate and water, so I would prefer to have jobs related to either of them or combination of both of them,
Mhm.
and like especially in the field of solar energy and wind energy. So northern Europe has a huge capacity in every capacity for wind energy. So I would like to go and have some experience there, especially for like analyzing the data and then approaching like different solutions for it, because the software market is still developing here. It's not like US or India even. The software
Mhm.
markets are like bit like back in compared to both these countries, but they are doing a lot to improve it. And that especially their target, Germany's target is to remove all their coal plants from till 2050. They are targeting at that, so they are focusing more on renewables energy and everything there.
That's really nice to hear. So, I mean, we hope and we wish you all the best that you secure your dream job, and we'll hear from you once you are actually working in the field. Coming back to you, Sambit, so I know you must be rejoicing with the presidential elections which has just concluded. So, tell us, what is the status and condition around you in your state, and also like how do you see this affecting Indian students in US, or in the coming future? How do you see this changing the shape of the entire situation?
The first thing I would say is like, yeah, we did a cheers to Biden for winning this election, and congrats to him as well. I hope he sees this video and he's when he sees it. So okay, so when so election usually affects it in a way like what are the laws and the policies are going on. So when during the Trump rule, he did something called a salary capping. So every state has like a minimum salary capping that you have to qualify to file for your H-1B. So H-1B is basically, so when we join in as a student, we are in a F-1 visa status. And after that, you need your company to file for, like after 3 years, you're in a non-STEM course. Depending on that, once your STEM or non-STEM extension gets over, you have to file for your H-1B. And Trump, what he did is like he did is a salary capping. So so when let's say a state has an average salary of like $60,000 annually, what he did is like he changed it to 74, and he was like, so now if you don't have 74, like if you're not getting 74 or more than that, you cannot apply for your H-1B. So basically, when he left, that was the most important thing that made me happy, is that the capping is gonna get removed. So I'm like,
Okay.
okay, yeah, that makes, so what happens if you cap the lower like lower salary range, you have to start
Mhm.
capping your higher salary range as well. So
Understood.
yeah, so basically when he left, that's what made me more happy. And apart from that, there's way policies. We are actually expecting more from Biden, because I know he has been following Obama, and Obama has been in his campaigns, walked through his campaigns and all. So we kind of feel like he should be a good lead. I mean, he will be a good leader to all of us. And apart from that, the important thing is like election doesn't affect you in terms of when you're in your STEM or you're in your F1 OPT period, but
Mhm.
it starts affecting when you're applying for your H-1B and green card. So otherwise, it has no effect on your status as of now. For that,
Understood.
like, yeah, how it affects to H-1B depends on all the policies and the laws. But I cannot say about those right now, but
It's
because
too
since I
early.
have, yeah, it's too early. So for me, I still have like another 2 more years. So once I face that, I go through that situation, I will have a clarity to answer the questions.
But definitely, it is a time to rejoice for everybody in US, and I think for the rest of the world as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, let's just let's just focus on the enjoyment currently, and we can worry about those later. Samit,
yeah.
I think all of our interns would be very inquisitive to know what was roughly the amount of money in Indian currency that you would have to spend for a 2 years course in the US. Because I mean, Rachna already mentioned about Germany, where you have where you do not have to where you have a lot of concession, and you know your tuition fees is waived off. So you know, but US, that is not the case. If you cannot secure a scholarship, how much would you roughly have to spend?
So I would say without a scholarship, almost around 55 to 60 lakhs for the whole 2 years, if you're doing a 2 years
Mhm.
masters. And with the
Okay.
scholarship, that basically gets reduced to like 35, 30, 35 or something like that, like 45%
Mhm.
reduction. So 55% you're paying. And so what the important thing that I mentioned, so when you do a part-time over here, the basic that you get over here is at least $10 an hour to $12
Okay.
hourly basis, and you get to work as many hours you want for the day, like not more than 10, but you can work like 10 hours a day. And so that basically makes like $100 a day. If you say that, if you count that for your whole month, um, that's basically $3,000 for the whole month.
Mhm.
And that is sufficient that you can start paying off your loan to your play, like you can start saving up, because usually when you take up a loan, you start repaying it back after 2 years when you're
Understood.
done with your masters. Yeah. So basically you can start saving from then itself. And if you have a scholarship, that's way good, because it's way less
Mhm.
amount to pay off. So
Yeah, because I am aware of business courses which are really expensive with
yeah,
fees of as high as 75,000 USD per year. But
yeah, yeah.
I think the fees that we are talking about right now is especially is only for the MS courses in US.
Yes, it's only for the
Yeah.
master's courses. Yeah.
Yeah. And I get to know this from you that if you plan ahead and plan well, then it is possible to secure a good job and pay back your loan, or within 2 years of time, it won't be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, like I have seen this, like a lot of people they keep on asking me like, how do you pay off your loan? Like, how did you pay off your loan and all? Trust me, people, when I'm saying this, it's not difficult to do that. Like, the pay is so good over here, and the job salaries are so good over here. You don't have to spend so much. Trust me when I say this. As an example, let's say if I'm earning 80 to 90K annually, I don't spend that much. All I spend monthly is like $600 monthly when I'm talking about rent included everything. And what would that like keep it to your max would be like $1,000 monthly, and you can make it $12,000. What are you doing with the rest of the money? Pay it
So
off your
you
loan.
do,
Like,
Sambit, you do have a secure job right now in the US, so you will be the
yes.
right one to answer this. And at the same time, we will all, anybody applying and taking such a big risk will always be skeptical. So I'm sure that you'll have a lot of questions coming your way from all our interns who are planning to go for higher studies in
So
the
with
US.
yeah, with respect to job security, when you say like people might be scared that they might not land with the job,
Hmm.
uh, what I have seen, even in COVID, also people are getting hired. They were getting hired. Even I did face through that. My manager came up to me and I said, like, a company might go through a restructuring and be you might have to leave the company. But that didn't let me down because there are a lot of opportunities. Like it depends on how. So the one thing I mentioned when you enter into America, the way you explain yourself is what counts. That's it. None of your degree values are like your CGPA. Even if you're from MIT or you're from Harvard or if you're from UTD, if you can explain yourself that well, you do have the opportunity to yourself only. Company doesn't bias you or based on what GPA you had. They will see if you have the required skills, the required technique. For me, it's like if you have the required technical skills and the things that you show into your resume, if you can explain them well, you're good to go. And
Understood, understood.
yeah,
I would like to mention about the block account thing.
Yeah.
So, though the tuition fees are not there in Germany, but for
Hmm.
visa, you need to show around like 10,500 something. The exact amount changed this year. So, you have to show while coming for the visa process. And this block account is kind of a thing that like, for it is for 1 year. And then when you come here, you just open your local bank account and give all the details to them. So the block account, the block account, the bank will transfer around 853 euro. It was 853 euros for me
Hmm.
when I came here. So 853 euros every month they do it, and this is how like it was for 1 year. But after that, you if you get a residence permit of 1 or 2 years, then it's fine. But if you don't get it, then you need to have a part-time job. Like for some districts is that you need to show only like a small amount of money around 2,000 to 3,000 euros for renewing your residence permit. But for
Hmm.
some districts that if you have a job, then you have to show some like little amount. And then if you don't have a job, then again you have to create a block account, so that you need to show that you have your financial background, financial support to sustain in Germany. You can manage your expenses. And sometimes also the government of the state also give you loans. Student loans are also there. And this
Hmm.
because of the COVID only, the Germany government is providing student loan to all the students if they are needed, because there was lack of job during that time and most of them didn't get the job. I was also searching during the COVID period. I didn't get the job, but as soon as the COVID got like better,
Hmm.
I landed up with the job. Immediately, I landed up with the job. So the market can take a sudden turn here. So you can't predict, but yes, the government is very much supportive for the students. So for finances, the same like US, it's like
Mhm.
10 to 12 euros. Minimum is starts from 10 euros per hour. And there's a restriction for students. You can either work 120 full hours per year, or 240 half hours per year.
Okay.
It's a restriction here. You
Okay. So,
you have to
so,
check
so
this.
when you're pursuing a degree, you can only work those amount of hours.
Yes, yes, only like 120 full hours and 240 half hours.
Understood. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was very insightful as well. Rachna, I was coming to this. So uh, you had been a very integral part of Desire Foundation and one of the most active members during your days in college. So how do you think that Desire helped you in your application processes, or the decision that you took further to pursue something related to a sustainable energy management? Also, how much does extracurricular activities, because since the work that we did for Desire Foundation, being college students, was like the social initiative on behalf of the students, where we are trying to do something for the society, so that comes under extracurricular activities. So how much did this play a role in your application process?
It was very important. So same like in US, you have to submit SOP. Here also, every college needs your SOP here. So in
Okay.
my SOP, because SOP matters here, because you in the US it is a bit different, that if you're from any background, you can take any master course. But in
Mhm.
Germany, they are very strict about it. If you're from like bachelor's in electronics, then if you are applying for masters in electronics, then you are perfect. But if you're from electronics and applying in IT, you need to show your certain ECTS, sorry, ECTS. Then you need to show your certain grades or your some experience in that field, so that you can apply for it. So it was very important. And for me, it was completely different, because I was from electronics and electrical engineering, and I came to sustainability field. So it was
Mhm.
completely different and had like no expense. So in my SOP, I put it about Desire Foundation and my work, and then work in Litter of Light and RTE Act. I mentioned all about all this in my SOP, and they was like quite impressive about it. I had an interview for my application. So when they called me and they started asking like, what did you work in Desire, then they were very like, they asked me a lot of questions like, what did you do, uh, so, and how your interest, what kind of activities other than this you pursued. So they were very much interested in your extracurricular activities if you are from different background.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I was all smiles when you're talking about your interview process and whatever you had written down in the SOP, because it was just bringing back all those fond memories. And I remember the Litter of Light project, where we literally went to each and every slums, and we went on top of the roofs of the houses, trying to install the light setup and and the bottles. So yeah, those are such fond memories, and it's really nice to connect with old friends and juniors and talk about this and have such a fun and open session about it. Sambit, do you want to share some fond memories that you have of Desire, or anything for that matter? I mean, Sambit, if I remember correctly, he was the first person who brought a sponsorship in Desire, and he was also one of the first few core members when we set up Desire. So yeah, Sambit, let's hear from you. What fond memories you want to share with all our viewers?
From the start till the end, like it has been a very long journey for me, and it has been the best journey I could have ever taken in during my undergrad. Um, so starting from the very first day, I remember we used to go outside, like wandering aimlessly, like what is our location gonna be like, look like? Where is it that we're gonna do something that would change their lives, like bring a change and like bring a smile into their face, like we kept on walking miles and miles into the slums, like into the areas nearby to our hostels. and just to find a proper place and spot, like what is it we can do over there, like that can bring a smile, like bring a change or something. From there till Letter of Light to I remember the day when um, I think it was Cheyenne or Somik. We both went. I mean, with me, we went to get some pizzas for this. I mean, for the people who are staying next to our hostel, and they were like so. This is so happy, and that made our day that day. Like literally, it was like, yes, they are smiling. I mean, they never knew what a like how to eat a pizza. There's like when you hand them, they will be like snatching it like a cake or something, and that made us that day like, yeah, we are proud to do that. Like that is bringing a change. That is bringing something into their face that we wanted to see for a long time. So I mean, I cannot explain it in such a short time, but it has been like a huge and like the best part of my undergrad. And this is something I do keep on saying to my manager in my company as well. Like I have worked on
Mhm.
something that is that started from a scratch. Like it's something that I have worked on, and I'm proud to be part of that because I have mentioned it in my LinkedIn profile as well. Like like a founding member of Desire Foundation as well. So it's like okay. So
And
yeah.
so are we. We are also absolutely proud to have such a strong alumni base. With you guys have not only done excellent in your careers, but you've also, secured a place for yourselves globally, and you are actually representing Desire on a global platform. When you talk about your journey to your uh, peers, to your university professors, to your colleagues, and to your managers. So I mean, that is taking Desire to a global platform, which we are really really proud of, and it is just possible because of all the good things that you're doing in your careers. uh, let's end on a really light note, since I know Sambit since 2012. So Sambit, let me ask you to share one of the fondest memories of college life that you have. Any memories that we shared together? Let's see how much you remember college life. Or is it all about US right now? Like, I don't remember India anymore.
I no. That's not never gonna happen because I miss India so much. Like I was literally planning to come this December, but the COVID and all, they won't allow us to. And best fond memories would be nearby to the swimming pool that we had like in our college. I was like, there's like
Mhm.
everything, like our meetings to like going for like a chai or something to having like the very first time, as in probably my second year or third year, when I took my first interview for this application, I was like, wait, I'm taking an interview. I am an HR right now. Those feels, those vibes, those are like something you cannot forget anytime. Like so, I mean, a specific memory would be um, I would say it's Litter of Light because definitely I can remember
Absolutely.
everything, climbing into all those roofs and like trying to put something. The people over there like no, घर पे like घर पे छेद हो जाएगा बारिश का पानी आएगा. It's like no, we are installing it. We'll take care of it. Like we'll do it. And with that I remember Saif like wait, he's a tall guy. He did everything like holding a bottle to everything. Shamik, I remember him as like the instructor. He's like the
Yeah.
he's like the idea bringer. He'll get an idea. He'll be like, okay, I'll instruct you how to do it, and then you do it. So I was like, I
And
always remember. It's like, yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Prita.
yeah, I think that is the best part about the team that we had then and continue to have in Desire throughout. That is, we have different people bringing in different ideas. Some are very good at execution, like you just mentioned, Saif. And I think none of those projects would be possible without him. And like you mentioned, Shomik, like he is, I think he
Yeah,
just thinks about, I don't know how he sleeps in the night. I think
he's like,
his mind is only swarming with different kinds of new ideas.
yeah. So he's like, I got this idea, and let's
Hmm.
find out what to do with it, and then we'll
Yeah,
have a group meeting, and yeah,
yeah.
let's do it this way.
Rachna, for you, I have a question. Who was your favorite senior? Don't be politically correct. You can just tell who was your favorite senior from Desire. And yeah, nobody's going to feel bad. Don't worry.
Then I would like Shayan Bhai and Poshali Di.
Oh, definitely. They are, I think, all of our favorites. So you want to share any fond memory that you had with Desire and the bonds that you created in Desire?
Yeah, especially with Pallavi, Hitendra, and Shubham. These three people, like I was complete. I didn't feel any difference. Like I'm a senior, you are junior to me. I didn't feel the difference with them. So I think we used to enjoy a lot. We used to like go this, that. We did a lot of parties and everything. So it's still now we in Bangalore when all three of us were there. So we enjoyed a lot. Still the bond is continuing. But these three
Yeah.
people are like, it's still I'm in talk with them. I really like fond of them. My day won't go without them till now.
Yeah, that's really wonderful how everlasting bonds we have created in Desire. While we thought that we were doing something for the society, the foundation also gave back a lot to us. And in terms of relationships, friendship, and these memories which we can recall after 3 and 4 years of our college life, and we still have a big smile on our faces. Once again, I really, really want to thank both of you. We are really, really proud of both of you and all the good things that you. Thank you so much.